Hi, my name is John.
And my name is Lloyd.
And we're the hosts of The Pint,
a pop culture podcast.
Lloyd, if you had to tell any of the people out there that might be listening to The Pint for the first time about anything unsavory or disconcerting we might do on the show, what would you warn them about?
Well, sometimes we drop spoilers, and sometimes we swear like motherfucking sailors.
Fuck yeah, we do. You heard it from him. You've been warned.
Listen in.
I've been waiting for you.
You son of a bitch, what are you doing? Get the door! Get the door!
Stay right there. Look, mister, I don't know who you are.
Shut up!
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of The Pint. My name is John.
My name is Lloyd.
And I'm Eric, a.k.a. Hot Coffee Lawsuit.
And we are here today to talk about a movie. That's right, a couple weeks ago or last week, however I put these out, we talked music, but we're jumping back into movies. And we usually save this part for the end of the shows, but it's important for the show to talk about it. Every episode of The Pint, a pop culture podcast, is a co-production between The Pint, a.k.a. The Manster and Johnny Ganache, and our Pint Insiders. Those are the folks that go to Patreon/The Pint, pay $2.50 a month, and get all kinds of cool extra episodes, cool Manster-style magnets,
Ooh, I love those.
all kinds of great stuff that we try to give you out there. But they also get a chance to shape the content of our show by either asking us to review movies or voting on different things that we might do. Well, this episode, we're here to talk about our buddy Chris Ramirez. Chris has been a patron from the very beginning. Great dude. We always get to see him at Larry's shows, ConnecticutCultClassics.com. Go check that out if you've never been to one. We love Chris. Chris asked me last year to review a movie called Europa Report. I watched Europa Report last year, and I never got around to reviewing it. I never got around to having Manster watch it. It was an epic failure on my part, and that episode will still be coming. I asked Chris, though, I said, is there another movie you want me to do? I can kind of get the wheels going again. And he gave us this one. He said, can you do 2002's The Mothman Prophecies? Right off the bat, I have never seen this. Manster, have you ever seen this?
I have never seen it.
And Eric, have you ever seen this?
You know, I remember like a TBS-y, TNT kind of the final part of the movie. Like that, you know, when we got to that point, I remember that point. But I never sat down and watched it straight through. Definitely didn't see it in the theater.
All right, so some fresh perspectives for you. Let's get into it. Let's talk about The Mothman Prophecies.
Wait, actually, before we start, what's in my hand?
Oh, hold on.
Is it
chapstick?
There you go.
He's got chapstick.
All right, that's it.
If you've seen the movie, you know. If not, we'll talk about it in a few minutes. All right, so The Mothman Prophecies came out on January 25th of 2002, 21 years ago. Man, oh man.
Damn.
Directed by a guy named Mark Pellington. Now, real quick, I want to throw this out there before I forget. Mark Pellington, the director, also voiced the character of Indrid Cold. We'll talk about that. All telephone voices, but he voiced that character. He also directed a movie that I think on a show, I don't know which one it was, but I recently...
It was Starman. It was Starman.
Thank you, Eric. Yeah. Arlington Road.
Yeah, and it's funny because I watched that movie because you recommended it like the next day in that show. Especially the beginning part of Mothman Prophecies is very similar, where it takes place in kind of like upper class neighborhood, and there's like this feeling of dread. So very similar in the directing style. You know, is kind of a frantic, kind of cool, slick style. Very similar. He
also did a U2 concert movie called U2 3D. Lloyd, you probably saw that 4 times in the theater.
No,
right?
no, I've never seen any of the U2 stuff. But he was big into music videos.
Yeah.
Jeremy by Pearl Jam, What's on Your Mind by Information Society, Rooster, Alice in Chains.
Yeah, Drive by R.E.M.
Yeah.
and Set Adrift on Memory Bliss by PM Dawn, if you remember that one.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, that was a rap song from like 91 or 92. But yeah, so this guy cut his teeth on music videos. You could kind of tell in this movie a lot of kind of quick cuts.
MTV cuts.
MTV cuts big time in this movie. All right, so let's get into the writers list thing. Let's start off with the writer of the novel this is based on. He did not write the screenplay, but let's just give credit where credit's due. So John Keel wrote the Mothman Prophecies novel in 1975. There's a character in this movie named Leek, which is Keel backwards.
Yeah.
So they did a little thing there. He was a renowned ufologist. When I first read that, I thought it said urologist, and I'm like, holy cow, this guy is writing about crazy, like, winged demon things and also checking on men's dick health.
Yeah.
Good for him. PPs.
Hey, like you said, when you're talented at everything, right? So.
Yeah, you got to be good. You can't just be a writer. You also got to be. You also have to know about the vas deferens and all that stuff.
Oh, jeez. You're bringing me back to health class, man.
Health class, right? I love vas deferens. I love that word.
Yeah,
it's so awesome. So in 1967, in a place called Point Pleasant, West Virginia, there had been a bunch of sightings and reports of sightings of something called the Mothman. And then on December 15th of 1967, there was a terrible bridge collapse of the Silver Bridge on the Ohio River that killed a bunch of people. And John Keel went down and investigated this and wrote about it. When you are a ufologist and you're a guy that does a lot of stuff about like kind of out there things.
Parapsychology and cult and supernatural.
A lot of people think he was full of shit. A lot of people said that he kind of made up stuff to make it a little bit more, what's the word? Like, more important.
Entertaining?
Entertaining, than it really was. A couple of his other books, Our Haunted Planet. That just sounds, Our Haunted Planet. And then my favorite title of a book ever, The Fickle Finger of Fate is another one he wrote. But he did all kinds of stuff, alien visitations, interdimensional life. The guy who wrote the screenplay, Richard Hatem or Richard Hatem. Hatem. So he wrote and produced a bunch of episodes of the very current, I think it's on its last season now, Titans TV show that's over on, HBO Max, the DC show.
Yeah.
Like 37 episodes. And then movie-wise, his biggest movie credit that I could find was Under Siege 2, Dark Territory.
I saw that.
Yeah. So that was Die Hard on a train, but with Steven Seagal, a whole nother thing.
By the way, HBO Max is losing the HBO.
I saw that.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Just Max now.
Yeah.
Just Max
That's
now.
like that. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Like Dunkin'
HBO
Donuts,
is
right?
so, so
just
historical.
Dunkin'.
Yeah. So HBO is going to remain HBO though, right? Like,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know the ins and outs of it.
All right. Couple more quick things. Filmed between January and May of 2001. And even though this takes place partially in DC, mostly in West Virginia, this was actually filmed almost entirely in Pennsylvania, specifically heavily in Pittsburgh. El Rama, I think, was one of the towns, Ginger Hill. And then I read this and I thought, this is awesome. So there's a character named Gordon, and Gordon's house was located in real life in West Mifflin, Pennsylvania. And I am 99.9% sure that's where our buddy Stu lives, is West Mifflin, Pennsylvania. Yeah. So
really?
Stu, we always joke, because I think I used to joke that it was called like Upper Mifflington, but I'm 90% sure that when I mail stuff to Stu, it's West Mifflin.
Oh, so that's nuts.
They filmed part of this movie in Stu's backyard.
Yeah, I read that they didn't actually film in Point Pleasant because it was too far from a metro area. Like they needed the production stuff that would come out of Pittsburgh, or so that's why it was closer to Pittsburgh and not in the actual town.
Makes sense. You gotta, if you're out in the country and you got to get somewhere where you have to make copies or do something, whatever they do for movies,
right?
You need to be close. All right, Manster, let's talk about the cast of this film.
Shabuya roll call. Woo.
We got a good cast here. First of all, we have Richard Tiffany Gere. I never knew his middle name was Tiffany.
I'm going to do my impression of a guy from Boston saying Richard Gere. You ready?
All right, go ahead.
Did you see that new movie with Richard fucking Queer? That was it. That was it. I just picture guys from Boston saying it that way.
Richard Queer.
Richard Queer.
Nice. Richard Gere as John Klein, the reporter, basically who gives up his job. It seems like he just left his job.
Odd, yeah.
2 years after his wife dies to investigate some strange phenomenon.
Something like a phenomenon.
Phenomenon. So never mind. American Gigolo, Officer and a Gentleman, Pretty Woman, Primal Fear, also with another person in this movie. So a little background on Richard Gere. I didn't know much about him going in, but he attended the University of UMass Amherst, on a gymnastics scholarship.
Oh, really?
Fucking gymnastics, yeah. He did not finish. He left after 2 years, but anyway, he's a gymnast. I think most people know he's an advocate for like human rights in Tibet. He's a pretty big activist. Originally was cast in a starring role of the Lords of Flatbush, but was replaced after fighting with Sylvester Stallone.
I remember reading about that, yeah.
That's pretty queer. Oh, whoops. And both of his parents were Mayflower descendants. So fucking, he's straight over on the Mayflower.
I don't know how I feel about Richard Gere, to be honest with you. I'm not really 100% sure. He's one of those leading men that he's never been in a ton of stuff that I've really loved. You know what I mean? Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things I really like, but it's not like, oh, it's a Richard Gere movie, I got to go see it.
Yeah, he's never driven me to anything. Who else is in this cast?
All right, next we have Laura Linney as Connie Mills. She is the Point Pleasant, West Virginia sheriff. You will know her from Congo, also Primal Fear with Richard Gere, The Truman Show, which we talked about not too long ago, Love Actually, and most recently a big role as Wendy Bird in Ozark. Really good show. I don't think you ever saw it, but
no, Lindsay watched it.
I loved Ozark. It was really
I've watched a couple seasons. Is Laura Linney too hot for this role?
Yeah,
no, she's great, and like I love watching her. But like if she was played like the Fargo cop, like an older woman, rather than the whole time wondering if they're going to hook up, kind of deal. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I guess we'll get to the hookup thing.
Yeah, their relationship is super bizarre. Because they don't have one conversation in this whole movie where they're not nose to nose.
Right.
And you're wondering if they're going to kiss. And, it never happens. But,
to be fair, Richard Gere is a close talker in this whole thing. Like, he's up to Gordon. He's like, they're in the street, just kind of, nose to nose, whispering about Mothman or whatever. So.
And they never do go there, really. But there's one scene where the two of them are alone. I mean, for crying out loud, he is at one point sexiest man alive, and she's Laura Linney, and he hasn't had sex in at least 2 years because his wife is dead. How are they not banging?
Yeah, she's
incredible.
She's way too good looking for small town like Armpit, West Virginia sheriff or whatever she is. Yeah, it was a bad choice for. She's good, but like, yeah, you're right. Should have been a little bit less gussied up.
Yeah, right. Well, she is a fine actress as well as a fine-looking actress. She has won 2 Golden Globe Awards, 4 Primetime Emmy Awards, and nominated 3 times for Academy Awards and 5 times for Tony Awards.
A couple years ago, during the pandemic, I watched the 2 Michael Bay Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies on TV. I had never seen them before, so I just watched them because whatever. And she's in the second one, and all I could think about was like, how bad are things for you right now, Laura Linney? Or like, what did you want to buy? Like, what did you need to buy?
Yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah,
that's it. She needs to buy an island. I don't know.
Yeah.
Next, we have Will Patton as Gordon Smallwood. He is the dude whose house John just shows up at multiple times, apparently.
Yeah, that was weird.
He is a fantastic character actor.
He's great.
Yeah.
He's been in stuff such as No Way Out, Armageddon, Remember the Titans, Halloween, Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends. Currently in Yellowstone, really, really big hit.
You know, he was really good
Kevin
in
Costner.
Did you ever see The Postman with?
Oh
Kevin
yeah,
Costner?
Postman. Yeah, another. He's friends with Kevin Costner, I guess.
Yeah, he's the villain in that, and that movie. People, I think, shit on because maybe Waterworld happened and people wanted to shit on Costner, but The Postman's pretty fucking solid.
Yeah, another long movie, too, if I remember.
Like 3 hours, yeah.
Yeah. Then we have Deborah Messing as Mary Klein, the dead wife. She's in about the first 5 to 10 minutes of this movie.
That's it.
You'll know her from Ned and Stacy, Will and Grace, The Starter Wife, a few movies, and she never really had a big movie career. But another one with lots of Golden Globe nominations and Emmys and stuff like that.
Yeah, she's okay. I never really got the
she's
appeal.
all right.
Yeah.
Then we have Lucinda Jenny as Denise Smallwood. That's Gordon's wife. From Peggy Sue Got Married, Rain Man, Thelma and Louise, Leaving Las Vegas, Three from Hell, The Hangover, shit ton of TV, and I don't even know who she is.
You know, I was so proud of myself because I said, "Oh, she looks familiar," and I thought I figured out what she was in. I thought she was Nancy from Groundhog Day.
Oh,
you know, that's the girl that Bill Murray just goes through time over and over and learns facts about her to try to date her. I thought it was that actress. They look so similar, but it's not somebody.
I wish I wrote it down, but like, this is the second movie that her and Will Patton play husband and wife in.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
I don't remember what the other one was. They played I think they were divorced in the other one, but they played.
Was it Armageddon?
No. It might have been. It might have been Remember the Titans.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we have Alan Bates as Alexander Leake, the aforementioned opposite spelling of the author of the book,
AKA Human Exposition. Right.
Yeah, well, two things, right? Eric nails it. Human exposition.
Right.
Did anybody else while they were watching this movie feel like this should have been played by Brian Cox?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
This guy was like Family Dollar Brian Cox. And I don't even mean he was a bad actor. He sounded like Brian Cox. He sort of looked like Brian Cox. I'm like, now I read that before the movie was made, they took $2 million away from the budget.
Right.
Like last minute. I wonder if Brian Cox was hired.
Brian Cox's, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. And they were like, well, we're going to pay Brian Cox $750,000, but we just took $2 million away. Get the dude that'll do it for like 3 large Meat Lovers pizzas and two 2 liters of Mountain Dew. And that's what happened.
Unfortunately, Mr. Bates passed away like a year later. At that point, he was Sir Alan Arthur Bates. He is just, he was a 60s guy, well known in English stage and TV and film and stuff like that. He was in Zorba the Greek, and he was in The Rose with Bette Midler, if anyone remembers that. Yeah.
I've heard it. I've never seen it.
73, yeah.
And I'm going to give you one more guy, David Eigenberg as Ed Fleischman, John's colleague and friend back home. He was Steve Brady on Sex and the City.
Yeah.
And Lieutenant Christopher Herman of Chicago Fire and all those Chicago shows.
He's literally, his only job in this entire movie is to comfort the John Klein character after his wife dies, and then to occasionally call him and go, "You got to call our boss.
I'll cover for you. I'll cover for you, man."
Like, I was just like,
you got the flu or something.
You got to tell him you got the flu. You haven't been back to work in 9 weeks, John. I'm trying, Johnny. I'm doing everything I can. I'm like, why are these scenes in here? Like this movie, right off the bat, without even giving out any cards, one of my, I guess, criticisms of this movie is it's 2 hours long and could have been an hour and 40. And you could have cut out every scene of this guy, except for maybe the first scene where it's just established that he has a friend. That's it.
It kind of reminded me of Fletch, like if you remember Fletch goes away, works at the newspaper, and he's working on a story, and he's going to Provo. You better get back. His editor or whatever, his boss is mad at him. I don't know. It reminded me of Fletch, the fact that
I feel that.
Get him back. Yep.
Is that it for the cast, Master?
That is it.
All right, Eric, why don't you give us kind of the entire beginning setup as to what is happening up until right to when the wife dies? Like, what's the basis of how this starts off for John Klein and his wife?
Well, it establishes that he works at the Washington Post and that he's super in love with his wife, Deborah Messing. And the movie shows them together and totally in love, and they go house hunting and roll around in a closet for a while and buy the house in like 5 minutes, we'll take it kind of deal. For me, anyway, as I'm watching it, and again, it's just that whole upper middle class foreboding. You think that something bad is going to happen. I don't know. I got that feeling. And as they're both driving home. They're driving just down a neighborhood road. In the distance, she sees some kind of a pair of 2 red lights, which is a recurring theme from some kind of like a traffic warning kind of something or other down the road. And it's at that point where, I don't know, something just shows up in her vision, and she swerves the car and that's the accident. She smashes her head on the side of the window, and that's the accident. That's kind of the propulsion of the story from there.
Now I get it. I get you got blue balls. I get you got Deborah Messing hot and ready to go. But like the way they were driving through those neighborhood streets, what an asshole!
That
like,
was not cool.
That was not cool at all.
Yeah.
Like honestly,
I was pissed at them for driving like that.
Yeah, and like they weren't like if they were on the highway and doing like 70 to get home to fuck. I mean, that's one thing, but they're literally on like Stu's like road. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Not even paying attention.
Not paying attention to anything. And yeah, when they have the accident, they essentially kind of just spin out. She fucking cracks her head.
Yeah, that was a good scene. Like I kind of wondered how they shot that to make it look so real. Like you could feel the weight and the force of her head.
Yeah. I think the fact that you're in the car with them the whole time, so your perspective is just there, just that disorienting, spinning around. You're not above it or on the side or whatever. So for me, anyway, that the impact was greater.
So Eric, she ends up in the hospital. But then we find out that she has a glioblastoma, essentially a tumor.
Yeah,
it's not a tumor. Yes,
it's not a tumor in her head, and things aren't looking good. So we kind of get like this kind of little like progression of scenes where we see her getting sicker, and she apologizes to him for ruining everything. And I'm sorry that because they had this like. Even though they're not a young couple. I mean, Richard Gere is like fucking 65 in this movie. Like they're not a young couple. But she's like, I ruined everything for us. And he's like, no, you didn't ruin everything. And she passes away. She dies and he's just kind of left alone. And he's in this new house they just bought. You get like a feeling of something like an orderly or a nurse kind of says something. What does he say to him that
well, he goes to see his wife's stuff in the hospital room.
Collect her belongings.
And then and he sees a bunch of drawings and the orderly says
she knew she was going to die. She was drawing
she knew
angels.
Something. She was drawing angels. That's what he said. She's drawing angels.
And these things are not
angels by any stretch of anyone's imagination.
No, it's all black wings and red eyes, and it's morbid. It looks like fucking like Nosferatu kind of. And
I love how they do this often in movies where you see sketches of things that people drew and like
charcoal sketches. Like
they're supposed to look rudimentary and raw, but they're so intricate and detailed.
Yeah,
there's no way someone's drawing that shit. That takes an artist to draw that.
I think I saw the Babadook in that book as he was flipping pages.
Sure.
You're absolutely right. Like she's probably mostly incapacitated by a brain tumor, yet she's drawing things like fucking like David Mack. You know what I mean? She's got like paint brushes and like, she's got like charcoal all over her hands. Like,
no relation between her condition and that Mothman.
Well, they didn't they say that did they say that just came on quickly, or did they?
No, that she had it, that they weren't aware of it. She wasn't aware of it. So if in theory, if she hadn't had the accident, they wouldn't have known about that.
Right.
But I mean, do they just use the tumor because she has to be awake enough to draw this stuff? Like why the tumor? Like if she just hurt her head, I don't know. I guess she needed to be conscious long enough to draw this stuff before she, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a little strange.
Well, that's a big thing about this movie.
There's so much about this movie.
To get into the plot of the movie kind of is so much of this movie is about kind of, again, prophecies. Like things have to happen for other things to happen to be warned of other things. You know what I mean? It's just like this
like, so that you can make that final connection at the very last moment.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now that that's all done, he is going to go and interview, I think, the governor of
Virginia, right? He's going to Richmond.
He's going to Richmond.
Yep.
But as he's driving, he makes it very clear it's like 1:30 in the morning. And at about 2:30 in the morning, his car dies on this road. And he walks.
I guess I'll just quickly say, John, that we do skip 2 years ahead.
Right.
So
sorry.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Very important. We skip 2 years ahead. Absolutely. We skip 2 years ahead. He's been living on his own, goes down to interview the governor of Virginia in Richmond. And he ends up in this, you'll find out, this town, Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Now, what is like, Lloyd, with the time that he left DC to get to Virginia, what is like so odd about this, right?
So,
like what?
So apparently he left around 1:00 in the morning, and then at 2:30 in the morning, I believe, if I remember right, you see a watch and it says 2:30. he is like 600 miles away.
Yeah, in a different direction. He is.
Yeah, not anywhere near where he was going.
He's not even just in West Virginia. He's on like the western
The
border,
Ohio like line of it. Yeah,
the Ohio line. So he is fucking way out there. So we have like kind of a presentation of like time dilation or something has happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
Eric, explain the whole bit about Gordon's house and what happens there. And also explain to me why Gordon is dressed like Han Solo.
Yeah, that's a look. So John's car just kind of dies in the middle of he's not near a highway or anything. He's just on a road, and he just gets on foot and he starts walking. And the first house that he sees is Gordon's house. And he goes up and knocks on the door. It would have been like 2:30 in the morning, and Gordon opens the door. Doesn't say, "Hey, I use my phone." He just holds a shotgun to him and just says, "Hey, you've been knocking on my door at the same time every night, 3 nights in a row." And he's threatening him with the shotgun.
Brings him inside, makes him get in the shower. Not anything weird.
Upstairs, somehow
Upstairs.
he jacks him up, brings him upstairs, and puts him in a bathtub.
Which reminded me of Training Day. The shotgun and the...
Yeah.
Yeah, got those vibes.
Yeah, so at this point now, because all I know about this movie from hearing about this movie is that it's kind of about this, what's the word? Like an urban legend, right? The Mothman.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what the Mothman meant or... the prophecies, what they meant. So now you're introducing like this weird time dilation and possible time traveling or loop. And I was honestly at this point getting really excited about where this movie was going. It didn't hold that up. Whether it's good or bad, it didn't hold that up. But we get the Laura Linney character, the way too attractive sheriff. She comes in.
When she comes in, it's fantastic. Just her approach and her dialect is really good.
Yeah, she
Pure
basically,
West Virginia.
She just comes in and basically, chills everything out. And Gordon explains again, this is the third night in a row. This guy's knocked on my door. Did anybody look, I get it. I totally get it. Your car dies at 2:30 in the morning. But like, I'm the guy that I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to sit in my car till like daylight.
Yeah. I'm not ringing doorbells.
I'm not ringing doorbells in the middle of fucking anywhere, especially heading down south at 2:30 in the morning.
Not in West Virginia.
Right. Because when the gun came out, I didn't even think it was like about like anything weird happening. I just thought it was a natural reaction. Like, why the fuck are you bringing my doorbell at 2:30 in the morning in fucking West Virginia? But so she calms it down and she says, okay, she takes John away and brings him to like a motor lodge. He goes to the motor lodge and sets up. And Manster, let's get into it a little bit without going scene for scene. He starts to learn of a lot of weird things happening in this town. So I'll go between you and Eric. Give me one of the situations that people have reported in this town.
Well, I will give you the first situation because it was practically on my birthday in real life. So Laura Linney character is, saying, "Oh, we've seen a lot of strange things recently. People have come to tell me, not just because I'm the sheriff, it's because I'm their friend and they know me." The first one being a couple of kids, like a young couple, parked in a car in a dump. I would say
you got to fuck at the dump.
This thing washes over their car, and by the time it leaves, they get out, and the guy's eyes are just like red. Kind of like from if you puke too hard, your eyeballs get red because the blood vessels burst.
Right.
So it's kind of like that, and that incident truly happened. And that happened on November 15th, 1966.
Interesting.
2 days after I was born. I think I might have manifested this Mothman thing.
You might have given that kid permanent pink eye.
Yeah.
Lloyd, was that the first sighting? Because I remember reading the first sighting was two couples. And they got
in
chased.
real life, it was two couples, but
Gotcha.
in the movie, it was just the one.
Yeah, we'll go with the movie stuff. All right, so that was the teenagers. Eric, what was something else that was discussed in these events?
Well, along those lines, did you think it was weird that Laura Linney just automatically, like, they became a duo? Like, yeah. Hey, why don't you, I just met you 5 minutes ago. Let me show you, like, all the files at the police station of everything that, that seemed a little, I know he's like a reporter and she knew of him, like he's kind of famous or whatever. There's probably a trust there, but I don't know. They started.
She showed her cards, like, really soon.
Yeah, really fast.
Well, he becomes so ingrained in this town. Like, he doesn't want to leave.
Yeah, they're like, hey, John.
Like literally, we'll get to it. But at the end of the movie, she's like, "Come home for Christmas." He's like, "Motherfucker is home.
I know.
He is home.
Come home for Christmas."
She's like, "We eat at 6 and we open presents at 8." It's like, are you psychopathic? Like, this is nighttime shit. This is morning stuff. But yeah, like when he goes to Chicago to see Leak, we'll get to that. And he comes back. They're all like, he's at the town party, and they're all like, "John's back."
Hey,
I'm like,
group
what?
hug.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to light the Christmas tree. Like, you get the whole fucking town out here to light a Christmas tree?
Yeah, well, that's not the weird part. The weird part is that they're all excited that the guy that's been there for 3 weeks.
Back. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Eric, what is another, like, Mothman sighting we had?
Oh, you had the woman who saw the Mothman in the backyard. She's looking through the window, and the Mothman ended up leaving a mark on the tree. And a couple of more recurring themes along these lines was the mark on the tree is kind of a Y shape.
Yeah.
And that burn mark and that Y shape is present throughout the movie. It was on the grill of the car in the accident in the beginning. Yep. When he's on the phone in the very beginning of the movie, he's writing the name Mary, and he's drawing the Y kind of like hard. He draws over the Y, and again, that Y shape is there. So, and even at the very end of the movie where there's, I don't want to give it away, but we'll talk about it. There's another Y shape that shows up right at the end. So, but yeah, so that the woman, and I think she might have sketched him for the police too, and John and Laura Linney, they end up going to visit her, and that's kind of what they do. They like there's the Scooby Dooing just around town, just interviewing folks, and just Mulder Scully kind of deal. Yeah. They're just, you got a lot of X-Files vibes too in this thing.
Yeah, I thought about how this could have been an X-Files movie, like if you just kind of amped it up a little bit and took out the John Klein character and took out Laura Linney.
I think it would have been much better as an X-Files movie.
Very possible. I definitely, look, I'll tell you this before we get into it. I don't think Mark Pellington is a bad director. I like Arlington Road quite a bit, but I kept thinking about, what if this was a Wes Craven movie? What if this was a John Carpenter movie? Like it would have, I think it would have benefited from people that were a little bit more in depth in the thriller genre. Cause that was what I just felt like a lot of this was quick cut music video style editing. And it just kind of felt flat looking at it to me, where I thought that if you had somebody that was a little bit more on point, even a horror director, it could have added a whole nother level of creepiness to it.
There are a couple of things that I liked when he put you in like the perspective of the Mothman, like when you're flying over things, when you're in a high point of view. To me, that was kind of like the Mothman, like flying, which you kind of see him doing. So when he's trying to, uses the camera to kind of convey like the story part of it, I like that. A lot of the transitions though between scenes, like you said, the quick cuts, the music video kind of stuff. I don't know. There was a lot of it. You can't just go from one scene to another. There has to be some, jagged something or some kind of filter that shows up and some, kind of screech of a sound or music or something. So you can't just, fade into another scene. So
I was going to say, I liked the flying as well. And I think in particular, the flying scene where you go over like power lines.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the camera reverses as you're going over it, and you see the top of, so it's not like a telephone pole, but it's a metal tower structure. And it's really cool because as you flip over backwards and look back at it, it looks like a shape of a moth. Also has sort of like an M shape to it. And they do the exact same thing at the end when you see the bridge from afar. The bridge has the same M shape. So I thought that was pretty nice cinematography.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. I did notice in the beginning when they were having their nookie in the closet it wasn't noticed, but there's a moth.
Yeah, there's moths.
Yeah.
In the light. I mean, that I didn't notice it because they fucking showed you, but yeah. So, okay, let's talk real quick. Manster, why don't you cover this one? The fire chief, and his discussion of what's happening to the phones.
This was part of the shit that got away from me. There's too much. I mean, so I'm not going to really be able to answer that because I think this plot has so many. It's so dense. There's so many things going on, so many subplots that I think, as you said, you can strip probably 30 minutes out of this movie and make it much more concise and understandable and less messy and more tight, then you could actually know what the hell's going on all the time.
See, I like the phone stuff. Okay, Eric, explain the phone stuff.
Yeah, I kind of had a hard time with it too. Like at the firehouse, what is it? He's getting messages on the phone, noises. He mentioned somebody that calls that talks really fast, and he's recording these things. Is the fire chief recording these things? And does he end up giving the recordings to John? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, because he's listening to them, and it's it's not static so much. It's just like a lot of white, like kind of dense noise and some voices. And then eventually we get introduced to the concept of the Indira Cold, right? Character, which is it the Mothman? Is it an emissary for the Mothman? But it's somebody that is calling and making these calls.
Yeah.
I thought the scene in the movie that worked for me the most was the scene where he talks to him in the hotel room. Cause like,
so you're talking about when Gordon called him and then he was in the dark room and saying all the things.
Yeah. That where he like, he puts the, whatever the item is in the phone, or he puts the item in the shoe, puts it under the bed, and he says, "Where's the watch?" And he goes, in the under the bed in the shoe.
Right.
And then when he says, "Read like line 3 on page 51," and they kind of like, he reads it directly and accurately.
Yeah. That scene was a pretty interesting scene.
I thought that was like probably the highest of any kind of like, kind of like made me go, ooh, like the as we mentioned earlier, like what's in my hand, chapstick, like that whole thing.
Yeah, that was part. Although I agree with you on that, that was getting to the point where I was just like, it was getting annoyed. At this point, I'm like starting to see the Mothman, maybe just a little bit further than that, as more of a prankster. Like, look, I can impersonate people. I can talk. I can call you on the phone and mess you up. I could tell you what's in your hand. I could tell you what's written on the book. It was starting to get really, I don't know, just messy for me around then.
The title of the movie is The Mothman Prophecies. And in the end, we start to see certain prophecies coming true. There's one point where Gordon mentions Denver and 99 people, or 99, just the number.
Yeah, that's a little earlier, right?
But it's something that was told to him. And then on the news, we see in Denver, 99 people died in a plane crash. He mentions I think an earthquake that kills 300 people. It's in the newspaper. So all of this is pointing towards apparently something bad is maybe going to happen in Point Pleasant. Eric, I'm going to ask you, because this is the part where, as you guys said with the phone calls, was kind of losing you. When they started to insinuate that his wife was coming back, that's where I was getting a little like, come on, man, you're smarter than this. Like, I get it. You're in love. She died horribly. You want nothing more than to see her. But like, I just thought to myself, why are we doing this at that point?
Right. It's like he's trying to reconnect with his wife.
Yeah.
Through the Mothman. And it's not really what this is about.
Yeah. I don't know, but it felt like it, like you said, there's a lot going on in this movie. So it felt like for a little while it turned there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden it's about him reconnecting with his wife, and now she's showing up again. And
he's clearly
this town.
losing his mind and going further down this like spiral.
Right. He eventually goes out to Chicago to visit this writer, John Leake, Leake, whatever his first name was, who is kind of like a local or an expert on this kind of phenomenon. Again, he is essentially the audience's version of the real author, John Keel.
Exactly.
So he goes and sees him, and he doesn't give him a ton of information about what's going on.
But you know what? I do like his perspective, because John's like, he's saying things like, well, why didn't he just tell us, what the plan is? And he's like, well, he's obviously more advanced. Why doesn't he just tell us? And he says something like, well, you're more advanced than a cockroach, but you don't explain yourself to a cockroach, do you?
Right.
And he makes that other point about saying, from here we can see what's on the street, but if you're a window washer and you're up there on that skyscraper, you can see everything going around. That doesn't make you any smarter. Just gives you a different perspective.
Gives you a little bit more perspective.
And I did like that sort of explanation. Yeah.
Eventually, he reconnects with Leake again because he wants to really deep dive into what's going on. And Leake tells him that, he was involved in this at one point, and he knew that something terrible was going to happen. he mentions that, he knew a building was going to blow up and, but nobody took him seriously. And then when the building actually did blow up, everybody was afraid of him. His wife divorced him, man. That's not a good wife.
Yeah.
That is not a good wife.
Well, who knows what she put up with before all that?
Yeah, he beat her mercilessly, probably.
Yeah.
He doesn't mention that part. He's like, and yeah, John's like, oh, that's so terrible. He's like, well, what I didn't mention was I used to fucking whip her around. Like, I was fucking brutal. I was really bad. So eventually John goes, and we're getting towards the end. He gets it in his head that something terrible is going to happen. Where, Eric? Where does he think something awful is going to happen?
Well, it's supposed to happen on the Ohio River, and the thing that makes the most sense is is it a chemical plant?
Plant. Yep.
Chemical plant on the Ohio River, and that governor, I think that he was supposed to interview earlier in the movie, is going to tour that facility. His boss from the Post calls him and says, "Hey, you got to interview this guy," and he kind of puts it together in his head that, obviously there's this plant and it's all coming together in his head that this is where that horrible thing is going to happen.
Essentially, in what they look at as is he makes a jackass out of himself. Don't go. This place is going to fucking blow sky high. Meanwhile, I didn't mention it. Part of the thing that kind of is progressing him is he became pretty friendly with the Gordon character, even though Gordon is obviously like hanging on to his sanity by a thin edge.
Yeah, because Gordon took that turn around the time of that 99 in Denver. Because before that, Gordon was not part of this at all. He was just like, get away from me. You're the one who's crazy, not me. And then all of a sudden, Gordon started experiencing the same thing with the Mothman.
Right. To the point where he just dies eventually. He dies.
And Gordon, I think, is the only one who actually keeps seeing him.
Yeah,
whereas
Gordon
John just gets the calls, but he gets the personal visits there.
He died of exposure, like out in his backyard or in the woods.
Yeah, and they said
it didn't seem like, the kind of elements that would cause you to die from exposure.
It didn't seem that cold. You're right. Yeah, and he had like long johns on. He had his Han Solo vest on. Apparently, it wasn't made of down feathers, I guess.
No.
But yeah, so when Gordon dies, there's another sense of time dilation too, because Gordon calls him, and an hour later, John finds him, but then the coroner says he's been dead for like 10 hours. So like things are going weird. So
it's the whole doppelganger aspect to the Mothman, right? Like, to me, the Mothman, it was the one that was John showing up the previous 2 times. And he's the one who will make calls and sometimes pretend to be somebody else. Okay. So to me, the Mothman made that call that hour before.
Yeah, he did.
Whereas Gordon was already dead. And sometimes you can even hear it too with the sound design. You can hear kind of the echoey kind of, oh, this isn't the real person kind of thing.
They said that, and I noticed it multiple times, Mark Pellington, the director, had it inserted in almost every phone conversation in the movie to even a small extent, so that if you heard it in your head, you're confused as well.
Right. Anyone could be the Mothman kind of deal. Right.
Yeah. It's The Thing. It's John Carpenter's The Thing, but it's not a 5-star movie. Okay.
One thing I think we need to mention before we move on is Connie's story about her dream.
Oh yeah.
Because that becomes very important at the end. So during their time together where they're not banging, and you're wondering why not, she relates a dream that she had. I don't remember. She just said she dreamed she was in the ocean, in the middle of the ocean, and she was surrounded by presents, like wrapped Christmas presents. She was trying to hold on to them, but they kept popping away from her. And then she just sank, and she was like, I just gave in because I knew I was going to die, and I was... and it felt okay. Meanwhile, she's crying, telling this dream. And I never cried telling a dream, but then she heard something like wake up. Yeah, she heard wake up number 37. And then she woke up from her dream. So we have no idea what the hell this means when she's telling us, but.
Could it be a Mothman prophecy?
Could it be?
I think it might be. So yeah, so John gets laughed away by the governor, and they're like, John, come on, man. You're supposed to be like top of the pops at the Washington Post.
You're Washington Post? Jeez.
Now you're West Virginia bullshit
you're like
trash.
National Enquirer now.
So let's head towards the end of the movie. He goes home because he gets a note that his wife is going to contact him on like noon the next day. He goes home. She never contacts him, but again, now Connie, the Laura Linney character, contacts him and says, "Hey, come on, come back to Point Pleasant. Like we love you here. You got nothing for you in Washington D.C." She's like, "Your wife is fucking dead. Your job sucks. Your only friend is just like a guy that like calls you like every other day to tell you to come back to work.
Your only friend is Steve from Sex and the City.
It's Steve with that weird accent." So he says, "Fuck it," and he decides to go back. And as he's going back, he ends up in this giant traffic jam, which Laura Linney is also in. And it is on a big bridge over the Ohio River. Now, I'm going to say this right now. This is the end of the movie, and this is what everything has been kind of building up towards.
And it's Christmas Eve at 6 p.m.
It is. It's Christmas Eve at 6 p.m. Laura Linney's cop car has, or at least some of the cars around her have gifts in them, presents, as you may say. Man, did you guys, maybe it was just me, and we'll talk about the ratings as we always do, but like, was this bridge scene like 4 hours long?
Oh, dude. Yeah, it was too long. The same scene of certain things snapping and breaking over and over.
I feel Eric has a different opinion. Eric, did you like the bridge scene, like in particular how they set it up?
I did like the bridge scene. I got to admit, it hooked me in. I guess the first thing is they say that the traffic jam was caused by like faulty traffic lights, which is kind of, again, like Lloyd said, there's like 100 different themes going on at one time with the Mothman can do everything and he has all these attributes or whatever. But, the electrical phone power line stuff is consistent also throughout the movie. The sound, the electrical kind of screeching when the calls are made. And yeah, you could say, well, the Mothman caused the traffic lights to go on the fritz and that caused the traffic to back up and too much weight on the bridge kind of thing. So that jumped out at me. I like the bridge scene though. I know it did go on for a while. Now that you mention it, it came out,
The bridge scene had a sequel. It came out 2 years later.
That bridge, by the way, was a massive undertaking because it was a model, a 1/6 scale model made of metal and everything, and actually collapsed and everything, just like a full scale bridge would. So
I thought
a lot of work went into that.
After I read that fact, I rewatched it 2 or 3 times. I was amazed by it. And even the guy I saw, YouTube had a little clip of the guy who designed the model, and he says they do such a good job that he doesn't get calls for work because nobody realizes it's a model or they don't. It's that detailed. So I thought it was pretty great, that model.
Yeah, the bridge looked great, and the scene itself was well done.
It just went on forever.
It just went on forever. Like literally, Richard Gere because he realizes now. Because he looks over and he sees the power plant is within view of the bridge. And he suddenly has this thing, fuck, it wasn't the power plant, it's the bridge.
It's the bridge.
So he starts running on the bridge, telling everybody to get out. Coincidentally, the pink-eyed kid who was fucking his girlfriend at the dump is on the bridge.
He's on the bridge.
Laura Linney's on the bridge. Let
me ask you something. If you're on a bridge and there's about 200 cars on that bridge and you see things snapping, what are you doing?
I'm running the fuck off the bridge.
Fucking getting off that bridge in 2 seconds. I'm jumping in the water and I'm swimming away. There's no way I'm staying in the car while some guy's running around like a lunatic trying to get me to leave.
Cables start popping. Things start ripping. The bridge starts buckling. In real life, the real Silver City bridge collapse apparently was a engineering
I-beam.
error.
Yeah, it was they didn't have enough I-beams. They didn't have a backup.
I think
the one that was supporting it.
Yeah, you would know the word better than me, Lloyd, being kind of in the engineering field, not necessarily bridge making, but they said it was due to poor redundancy.
Yeah, redundancy. They didn't have a backup for if it collapsed or buckled.
Yeah,
it was an older bridge, right, from the 20s or something. So I don't know if it was common at that time.
Probably. Nowadays bridge making is fucking way more than the 1920s.
So this bridge starts popping, snapping, crackling. It's doing all those fucking serial things that we love.
Yeah.
And cars start to slide and sections of the bridge start to go down. Cars start flying in. And Laura Linney is in her little police blazer, and she goes in the water and she gets knocked out. And of course,
actually, one quick thing before she goes in the water, one other like foreboding thing they show is she's on her police radio trying to call for help, and you see the channel number of the radio switches like from 19 to 37.
37, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I
before
didn't
she went
that.
in. Yeah, it was a quick little thing. But
I'm not gonna lie. I watched this whole movie, no falling asleep, but the bridge scene, I was starting to like get heavy-eyed, like, just because, again, an hour and 40 minutes would have done this movie a little bit better than the 2 hours that it is.
And one more weird thing, not weird really, because it's kind of unrelated, but Gordon's house number was 1038. I don't know if that's significant in any way, being one more than 37, but
I don't know. Maybe. The kid also, doesn't the kid who banged his girlfriend at the dump who had permanent pink eye, didn't he they don't show up, but he gets killed by a cable? Like they show a cable snap.
They kind of imply that it smashed through his windshield.
Yeah, they didn't have the balls to show it. Yeah,
it actually for 2 frames during that impact they show the Mothman. Like if you slow it down at the point where it hits a car, you see his face or something like that. His fiancée was getting fitted with a wedding dress on Christmas Eve at like 6:00. I thought that was a little weird. Like weird.
A lot of weird things.
A lot of weird.
Yeah. I still think it's weird that like she invited him to Christmas, like, and like they haven't done it. Nothing's happened between the two of them. She's just like, John, come home. Like, what?
Yeah, I know.
Like, I have, this is my house. I am home. I am home. But he's like, no, you know what? I love this little town, this little haunted fucking town I found in the middle of nowhere, like my new favorite place. So essentially the bridge starts to collapse. Laura Linney goes in. He jumps in, right? He dives in.
Yeah, with his trench coat looking super cool because he jumps in and the coat kind of goes up. And then he doesn't bother taking it off. He swims 50 feet underwater with a trench coat on and saves her somehow. Did you ever try and swim that deep?
I'm not a fucking
You can't go
SEAL.
much more than 20 feet before like your ears start like popping and ringing and hurting.
Yeah, I drowned in the shower, so yeah.
Yeah, he went way the fuck down there on one breath. It was amazing.
Yeah, and he's also wearing 18 pounds of clothes.
Right.
Lucky enough to get that air pocket in the car too.
I was going to say that. Like they literally have the air bubble in the car. Does she wake up or does he just drag her out?
No, she doesn't wake up until like they come up out of the water.
One of my favorite bits in this whole bit is going to show how weak her police department is he goes in through the back of her truck and then just pulls the cage out.
I know.
Shouldn't that not pull out so that nobody in the back could kill you as a cop? He literally just goes, tink, and it comes right off.
I thought the exact same thing, but, he couldn't get in through the door because you're not going to be able to open that door underwater.
Yeah, but you could pull the fucking security cage right out of it.
But her rear window was down. He went right through the hatchback window.
Yeah. So he ends up saving her. We get back into the top, and I also found this to be kind of odd. I'm assuming we're within like an hour.
I know
and a half,
exactly what you're going to say.
An hour and a half of this happening, possibly. Let's say at the most.
A half hour, probably.
Okay, we'll go with you. Half hour to 45 minutes. He talks to the local fire department chief, and the guy knows how many people died.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit. They'd be
Hundreds
pulling
of
bodies.
Cars, whatever. People just fell off a bridge. People have drowned. You haven't dredged the river at all. 36 people dead. 36 gone.
And so what does that mean for 37, Eric?
Well, they take that dramatic pause and then they realize, and they, Richard Gere has this look that he has throughout the whole movie where he kind of blinks rapidly and shakes his head, like just trying to make sense of things. He does it 1,000 times, but he does this final little blink head shake thing and they realize that, wake up, number 37. So she was the 37th. Or he could have been the 37th, or it could have been anybody who survived. Like, I don't know why she was the 37th, but, so wake up number 37. Premonition.
I would have, what would have been better? Listen, I'm not a filmmaker, but I'm going to tell you what would have been better. Is if in the film, he just says, a lot of people died here tonight. I could already tell you that. And then at the end so the movie ends and we get that little blurb about because it's said in the beginning based on a true story, and we get a little blurb of information about it. A better blurb would have been like, after weeks of investigation, it was determined that 36 people died. Right. That fateful night. And officer whatever was, could have been the 37th. And like it would have been like you read that and gone. But the way, again, like the 36 people. It's like there's still people at the bottom of the goddamn lake or the river that you don't know about. Yeah, that was stupid.
And in real life, the number was 46.
And it wasn't Christmas Eve. It was 10 days before.
Right.
It was December 15th. All right. So that's 2002's The Mothman Prophecies. Thank you so much again to our Pint Insider, Chris Ramirez. Again, don't forget, Patreon/the Pint, $2.50 a month. Eric, you're an insider. Is it worth it?
Oh, every penny, man.
All right. So thank you. All right. Let's talk about the box office, Master.
So I'm talking about fractions of a penny here, and over time, they add up to a lot.
So this Mothman Prophecies was released, as you said, January 25th, 2002. Had a budget of $32 million, and in the opening weekend made 11.2, so about a third.
Not bad.
Domestically, made 35.7, so just made back what it cost, and then 19.5 million international for a worldwide of 55.3 million. Yeah, pretty good. It made its money back anyway. So the weekend of 125 of that year, not a whole lot going on, but Mothman in his first week came in at number 6. Like I said, 11.2. At number 5, also in his first week, The Count of Monte Cristo.
I saw that once years ago. That was a pretty solid movie.
Yeah.
Guy Pearce and Jim Caviezel.
Yeah, I always confuse those two.
Yeah, they're like the same dude.
Yeah.
Like Jim Caviezel is American Guy Pearce and Guy Pearce is Australian Jim Caviezel.
Right, exactly. That came in at 11.3. Number 4 in its 6 weeks was A Beautiful Mind at 11.5. And at number 3, another movie in its first week, A Walk to Remember.
Keanu Reeves, I think.
Oh, is that what that is? All
Maybe.
right. At 12.1 million. Number 2, Snow Dogs at 13 million. And number 1 that weekend, Black Hawk Down, 17 million in its 5th week.
Snow Dogs is one of those movies that I don't have any interest in necessarily, but I'll never watch because if one of the dogs dies, that's it. Like, I'm done. Like, there's that Paul Walker, like, 8 Below, I think it's called, where he plays like he's like a sled driver, and him and his dogs get like kind of like stranded in the Arctic, and I'm like, at least 3 of those fucking dogs are gonna die. I can't handle that. I can't handle that shit.
You can't watch that shit. Man.
No, not at all.
On the year, like I said, it made 55, and this is worldwide. 55.1, just above Analyze That at 55, and just below Frida. Remember Frida?
That's
Salma Hayek.
Salma Hayek with the unibrow, right? Where she was playing
unibrow.
Frida Kahlo, yeah.
Yeah, at 56 million. I'll just give you the top 5 that year. Men in Black 2, number 5, 441. Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, number 4. Number 3, Spider-Man. Number 2, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. And number 1 that year, The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers at $936 million.
Of course. Eric, can even a unibrow mess up Salma Hayek?
I mean, she could have, I don't know, 3 stacked on top of it. I mean,
that would be a 3 brow.
No problem.
All right, let's rate this thing.
And a guy who spent 6 weeks in the bathroom got a 91.
All right, before we talk about what we thought of this film, don't forget 0 being the worst, 5 being the best, quarter and half scale optional. I've got a couple of the insiders and their opinions, so let's read them off. First, we're going to start with Chris Ramirez, who picked this movie. Here's what he said.
All right.
One of my favorite films, while not taking much from John Keel's book, it does touch on the strangeness and paranormal happenings in Point Pleasant, and his theory of, big word here, I don't know what this is, ultra-terrestrials is touched on as well. I mostly enjoy it as an atmospheric and creepy film. I have watched this movie many times. I always get a chill up my spine when Indrid Cold hisses out chapstick. 4.5 from Chris. Another Chris Frodell, our buddy over at Recent Activity and Arguing with Myself. It's been a while since I've watched this. I remember being underwhelmed. I was sold a horror flick and got an uninteresting drama. An ending that falls flat, mostly forgettable, 2.5. And the redheaded stranger, Buck Highland, Laura as we know her. I haven't watched this in a really long time, but the last time I did, I remember not liking it too much. 1.5, maybe a soft 2. A soft 2, I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you got to watch it to give it a rating.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, look, there's movies I saw 10 years ago I didn't like, but a refresher always helps too. All right, let's start with Hot Coffee Lawsuit down there. Hot Mothman Lawsuit.
Hey,
Eric, what do you give it?
Just quickly, I I just looked up Point Pleasant. Like the Mothman stuff is still like very much ingrained in that town. Like they have a Mothman museum there. If you guys want to check it out, there's a Mothman statue which is right across the street from the museum, and there's a webcam on it 24/7. So if you want to check out the Mothman cam, I watched it for like 15 minutes, and during that time, like 3 separate groups of folks went up to like take their picture with the thing. So,
Oh, really?
Yeah, and their festival is the week before Connecticut Cult Classics. Plug. So if you want to, make your trip there and then head back down to the not the classics. The
Connecticut Horror Fest?
Yeah, Horror Fest. Sorry about that.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, it's a week before, so you could do both. Is what I'm saying.
A couple of great plugs: Connecticut Cult Classics and Connecticut
There
Horror
you go.
Fest.
So, as far as my rating, it's like I almost don't even have a number. It's more like a sound. It's like, that's kind of my rating. It's like right in the middle. I mean, there's stuff I really liked about the movie. I definitely like the scene at the end. I know you guys said it dragged, but I don't know. The technical parts of movies, like the miniature stuff. I don't know. I'm impressed by that sort of thing. So, and the acting was Laura Linney is great, even though I wanted to recast her. Sorry, Laura. But to me, it's like kind of like right in the middle. It's like kind of average. Like I can see people really loving the movie. Like I could see people just getting into it and then researching, reading the book and falling down that rabbit hole. I can see that. And then I could also see people think it's too slow and the Mothman does like too much weird stuff and it's disjointed. And so I see both sides. So I'm going to play it right down the middle, man. I'm going to go 2.5.
2.5. Manster, what do you got?
Well, I wrote a lot of things about this. I was fairly engaged for like the first 40 to 45 minutes of this movie. And then in the middle, I was desperately trying to keep from losing consciousness. And then it brought me back at the end again. I really wanted to like it. I'd never seen it before, and I really wanted to like it. But I think to me, what it does is it mixes up all these phantasmic, I just made up a word, phantasmic accounts into just like a confusing and messy mystery. All right, that's wants to be. I don't even know. I think I heard someone or I read somewhere that it was a horror movie. Like to me, it's not a horror movie. If anything, it's a supernatural thriller, but it's an unsatisfying one. It does take a somewhat pretty interesting, creepy urban legend. It brings you somewhere, and then to me, it just idles along with bullshit for about a half an hour until you get to the climax of the bridge.
You know what really killed me? The scene where he drives 100 miles an hour back to Indiana or wherever to talk to that author for a second time. Like they couldn't have that conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the one as far as like padding for time or whatever and more exposition. Couldn't he just call him or something? Like, we got to drive out there. But yeah, I hear you.
Too much time padding. So by the end of the movie, I mean, I hate to say this, some people thought he was really good and creepy, but I just didn't give a shit about the Mothman anymore. To me, he was just like a prankster who likes to make prank phone calls, masquerade as other people, and tell the wrong people about upcoming disasters. Why fucking tell a guy in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, when there's going to be an earthquake in Ecuador?
Yeah.
What the fuck? If you're so high on yourself and you want people to know how great you are and how much you know, fucking tell the people that are over there in Ecuador.
Well, that's the thing. I don't even think it's the point of like him.
I know that's
the point.
The whole thing that gets me about this.
Right. You can't I agree with you. You can't quantify what the point is in the end. Like, why is he telling these people about these? Is he trying to prove that something's bad? He's trying to prove, I think, that something's coming to you. But why did John have to get involved? Because it seems like it was important that John is the one that comes to this town to unravel the mystery, and it's important that he's the one that figures out the bridge is going to go down. But why? Why is he the like? Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah, and you can try and tie it to the wife and her experience, but it doesn't hold water. It's
right.
Stupid. So to me, the saving graces of the film is Laura Linney. Over. What would you call it? Overcast? I don't know. Overqualified for that role. And I even enjoyed Will Patton. I like Will Patton. I liked his character. He did have a creepy atmosphere. So those are like the things that sort of hold it together, but it's certainly not enough. And all I could think of when I was writing, like, what should I say for it, was, where's the beef? I'm in the category, and I'm going to go just a little bit lower. So 2.25.
I'm with you. I'm at a 2.25. I mentioned it before. If you gave the same material, even with this, if you gave the same material to someone like Wes Craven, someone who's a known like thriller / horror director that can really elicit some throat choking fear out of it, because I just felt like this guy wasn't the right director. And again, I've said it before, I really liked Arlington Road, which is more of a, it's a thriller, but it's not supernatural. It's just like a, my neighbor might be something. And he elicits a lot of good acting and a lot of dread in that movie. And I feel like in this one, he doesn't. Maybe this would have been better if it was his third or fourth movie, not his like second, I think it was. I couldn't tell why the John character was so integral to the events of this point. Why did whatever it was,
why did he end up there?
Why did something direct him there? What was his connection to them? Because if at the end of the movie they said, "Oh, we found out, by the way, John, your father was born here," and then it was like some kind of like, and he was, the first person to ever, have a sighting of the Mothman.
Some connective tissue there.
Oh, there's connective tissue.
Well, if you wanted to be generous, you could say that he had like an arc where he was grieving the entire time, and in the scene where he doesn't pick up the phone to talk to his air quotes wife, and he left it behind. That's him getting over, or him moving on, which is kind of what Laura Lynn. So I don't know with the whole town kind of deal, but he needed the motivation of his wife's tragedy to be looking for the Mothman. So he needed that, I guess. But I'm trying, I'm trying to help Mark Pellington. I'm trying.
I get what you're saying there. I think there is an emotional arc. Obviously, it is him saying, "I'm leaving this." He leaves his house. He leaves a house he's paying a mortgage on to just go down and have Christmas in West Virginia. But yeah, it just, the cast was good. Like you guys said, like, I like Will Patton a lot. I tend to like Will Patton in other movies more than this, but I did like the fact that like when he's introduced, it's initially antagonistic and you think, oh, and then I like the fact that they had this closeness between him and John.
Yeah.
Where where John gets him and starts to feel. So there was good things in this movie, but for me, it's a 2.25. It's a 2.25. That said, since we all kind of didn't give this movie a great grade, Chris, on the other hand, who suggested this movie, is a fucking 11 out of 5. So thank you so much, Chris. We love you. I hope you're not like unsubscribing from the Pint that since we shit on your movie. But hey, look, I always appreciate a brand new movie to throw into my my viewings for the year, and that is certainly one. And I'm 100% not going to forget, we are going to do Europa Report probably on the Patreon just for you as well. So
all right.
And we might get more Mothman, because I was listening to a couple of podcasts. Mark Pellington was interviewed saying he was trying to get it for streaming, and this was about a year ago. So it may end up being like a streaming series in the future.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
If you need more Mothman,
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you. Manster, get us out of here. Tell everybody where they can find us.
All right. Find us on all your podcatchers, Apple, iHeart, Spotify, Stitcher, whatnot. Facebook and YouTube. It's The Pint, a pop culture podcast, and Instagram and Twitter. It's at The Pint Podcast. And Patreon, it's www.patreon.com/The Pint. See ya.
Chapstick.
It's over, Johnny. It's over! Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off!